The best sushi spot in America is in Philly. Let me tell you why. This meal was so incredible. We're doing something a little different in this video. Not only will you get to see every last bite that made this omakase the best sushi in America, but afterwards I also caught up with Chef Jesse Ito to learn the secrets of what makes it sushi heaven. If you want even more chef interviews, let me know in the comments below. And make sure you're part of my brand new newsletter and podcast, Let Me Tell You Why, which digs deeper into all of my meals with interviews, restaurant news, and more. Link in caption below. And of course, make sure you're subbed here because I go on food adventures all over the world. Last time I was in Philly, I went to Royal Izakaya and was blown away by the meal. This place is discreet upon discreet. A menu full of great bites, tuna guac, wagyu, eggplant, akataka. But when Chef Jesse Ito brought out the Royal Izakaya Chirashi box, I thought I was in heaven. At the time, I didn't know I was just at Heaven's Gate because he also informed me that behind the door in the back was the omakase room. So a year later, I'm back to finally get in there and get a taste of one of the hardest reservations in the country. $300 17-course meal plus add-ons at the end. This is truly a sushi experience. 16 people every night get in to see this sushi master's work, and from fish quality to treatments to accoutrements to just being able to pick Jesse's brain about each bite, it's one of the most memorable meals ever. Let's go through those bites. Tamago tofu to start, which is a chilled egg custard with tiger shrimp, shimeji mushrooms, corn broth, pea tendrils, and with the caviar on top, it's just this beautifully delicate bite. Kakitoro is a toro tartare topped with a kumamoto oyster. Kampachi is amberjack. Sawara is a charred Spanish mackerel with a tosazu dressing, leeks, yuzu, and serrano for this really acidic, refreshing bite. Mirugai is a nori rice with shiitake mushrooms topped with sea urchin and gooey duck. Hotate is a scallop with aguachile, avocado tomatillo, smoked trout roe, and red onions. The vibrant colors don't even do justice to the vibrant flavors going on. I slurped it down. Botan ebi tops a spot prawn with sea urchin. A ori ika is a bluefin reef squid. Kinmadai is a torch goldeneye snapper. Shima aji is a striped jack. Sake is a torched king salmon belly topped with a yuzu kosho. Gomasaba is a cured blue mackerel with sesame. Akami is aged bluefin tuna. Absolutely stunning. Caviar toro is an aged fatty bluefin tuna, of course topped with osetra, like the most perfect bite. And to finish, uni is topped with a soy cured judori egg yolk, just like lusciousness. But there are 7 add-ons if you're still hungry. I was stuffed, but come on, I can't pass up trying some more. For $60, the Royal Wafer is just bonkers. A rice wafer is topped with a yuzu cream along with bluefin tuna, osetra caviar, smoked trout roe, uni, and sturgeon. I think I want this bite to be my final bite before I die. For $18, you can get the spicy crunchy tuna tamaki with bluefin tuna, spicy sauce, cucumber, pickled jalapenos, and tempura crisps. One more before I fully tapped out. The Wagyu for $27 is an A5 Miyazaki ribeye. If you love sushi like I do, this absolutely has to be on your list of restaurants to get to. All right, so tell us a little bit about your restaurant.
Sure. So Royal Izakaya, it's an izakaya that opened actually 8 years ago as of next Monday. It's in Philadelphia. It kind of imbues like Japanese comfort food, and it's approachable, and it was always supposed to just be a neighborhood bar, but it's become a little bit more in Philadelphia. And then in the back, there's Omakase, where I personally do 16 seats a night. It's a $300 tasting menu.
What's it like to have like one of the hardest reservations in America? A pain in the ass more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. Like, yeah, it is hard to navigate because at the end of the day, it's a problem that I can't accommodate more people. But that's also what makes these types of places special. I mean, you've been to Japan, you've done omakase. The chef being there is critical, and in order for the chef to control it in their vision, it has to be a certain amount of people, usually 6 to 8 seats. That's what one chef could do. You could extend it to 12 if you have a helper, but I just want to make it as best as I can, and that's just my goal.
So the video I just put out is more experiencing the omakase that I just had. Tell people what they expect more from the izakaya then.
I mean, the izakaya, from the beginning, we wanted to keep it very nondescript from the outside. So in the first 2 years, I'll never forget people. When I was outside just watching us open, like at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, people would just walk by. They wouldn't know if that's the place because there's a lantern. They'd have to keep looking on their phone, be like, "Is this the spot? I'm not sure." It
That
looks like a
was
house.
me.
Because it looks like just a house with a red lantern and a blue door. I mean, it's in a very residential neighborhood. But as soon as you walk in, it's a vibe. We're playing rock and roll, funk, hip hop, music that I grew up listening to. I was born in '89, and the food in my mind is better than it's ever been. We have a great team. It's got a lot of classics that came from my dad's restaurant. My dad's a Japanese chef. Him and my mom owned the restaurant for 40 years in southern Jersey, a small BYO. And then it's got a lot of newer dishes that we're having fun with. So, and you can also get some sashimi and some rolls and some things like that out there too.
What's your favorite bite on the izakaya menu, and what's your favorite bite on the omakase menu?
Favorite bite in the izakaya is the nasu dengaku, the eggplant with the miso. I grew up eating that, and that's my dad's recipe. He makes it. We use saikyo miso in ours, so it's much sweeter. Some places will use like a red miso, so it's a lot more savory. I love that dish. I mean, it's eggplant with miso, so good. The omakase, my favorite fish in general, and has always been saba, mackerel. It's a challenging fish to work with, and a challenging fish for a lot of diners because they've had bad experiences with it. It's usually like salt cured, pickled, all sorts of things. So I'll never forget when I was 17. That's when I started training for sushi. That was my goal, to be like, I want to make saba a very popular sushi item so everyone likes it. So I pickle it, I vinegar it a lot less than classically, so it's not as intense.
For people, going through all the comments of the videos the past few days, it's always so interesting, people that understand the process of sushi and people that don't. For people that don't, and the title of the video was the best sushi in America is in Philly. Obviously, it's supposed to be a little bit provocative in that way. And someone made this assumption that well, why would we eat the fish from Philly? I'm like, the fish isn't coming out of the river right there. So for people that don't understand, can you just sort of walk us through the process of your process of the day you're gonna have today, preparing where the fish comes from, preparing it, and then how it ends up in.
Sure. Yeah. So the majority of the fish, nothing comes from Philadelphia and the local river, or right here. I'll just say that up front. Most of the fish comes from Japan. So there are 3 deliveries from Toyosu Market that we get. So we get it on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and I also dry age fish. But all of the fish is coming from Japan. I also get some fish from Spain, from New Zealand, from the West Coast. I use some shellfish. It's all about getting the best product that we can use. I mean, that is Japanese ethos. Just kind of keep it simple, work with the best product, execute the best technique. That is very basic Japanese ethos for Japanese cuisine. So yeah, yesterday we got the majority of the fish, but we leave what we're going to do today on the bone. So today we have to butcher the fish. Omakase is all about the rice. I mean, sushi is all about the rice, I have to say. That is 90% of it. You can have the best fish in the world, but if your rice is sticky or soft, it's just not gonna be as good as it could be. And rice is the one factor that rice and the sauces are that the chef has to be able to do. Anyone can spend money and buy fish, right? You can hit up my purveyor and be like, I want what Jesse gets. I want that same exact thing. I'll pay. Fine. So you can get it too. You can probably break it down. But not many people know how to make the rice in a certain way, right? It should have a nice texture. It shouldn't be so sticky. I love equating it to like working with clay. I mean, it's like how you're molding it. It's like a dance when you're like making the nigiri. So that is the most technical part of sushi, and that's what I spend most of my day doing. I personally make my own rice every day, and I weigh the water out to the hundredth of an ounce. And I change that, daily, depending on humidity, depending on crop, like is it new or old, all types of things. So I'm always modifying, always tweaking it, always trying to make it better. But that is the most important part.
Japanese food and sushi omakase in particular is something sort of like feels so steeped in tradition. What's your balance of sort of like having those traditions, but also being able to have your own fun spin with everything and your perspective on every dish also?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that most omakases you go to are almost like very similar because everyone's trying to execute just on the highest level of technique, right? And there are a lot of dishes that you'll see in Japan, you'll see it in America, that everyone does. And I was one of those chefs for many, many years. I've gone personally through my own evolution. I'm also half Korean. My mom's from Korea. At a certain point, I got tired of just doing the same thing, I wanted to be more creative. And I also came to terms that, your heritage is, you can't just identify with one thing, right? Your heritage is unique to you. It's not just, I'm American, I'm Korean, I'm Japanese, I was born around Philadelphia. I'm part of this Philadelphia chef community. And I try to integrate all that into my food, and it's been so freeing to kind of take some creative liberties in the omakase, but also pay tribute to what makes it the most important parts, the rice, the fish technique, dry aging, stuff like that.
Great. And then one final question. What's, like, in your mind, most iconic Philly restaurant?
That's a hard one. I would have to say, iconic means long-standing and just very well-known and amazing. I would have to say Vetri and Zahav. It's hard to separate the two. I remember my dad's a chef. He took me to Vetri when I was like a little kid. I'll never forget that experience. And now I know Mark, I'm close to him. And Zahav is just like, it's always just been such an amazing experience, and it's only continued to grow. And both those chefs have shown what you can do, right? And they've been long-standing in the community. So I would say those two. But I hope you enjoyed your Philly visit. What'd you think? Did you have a good time?
I love it. It is a city that, I do feel is like a little underrated, certainly. I kind of like that. I don't know if I want to eat any more cheesesteaks, honestly. But cheesesteaks videos perform crazy well on social media, and part of my job is giving people what they want and what I want. So I try and do the mix of, well, I'm there, I'm going to eat it, and once a year I'll go eat a bunch of cheesesteaks, but then also being able to tap into these other pockets, as what your restaurant does such a great job of. Like, no, Philly is so much more. There's so much more, even in the sandwiches. Like, half the place, part of my problem is why I don't want this cheesesteak is like, I go to these places and I'm like, I would much rather order one of your other sandwiches. It looks so much better to me than another cheesesteak.
You're right.
But I'm here for this mission. But yeah, like, super underrated. It's like a really cool scene happening there. And like every time I come back, like little bit more. Definitely let me know in the comments what your sushi heaven looks like, and make sure you're a sub so you don't miss one bite.